Welcome to this Pan-African Perspectives, your weekly or bi-weekly live stream where we talk about all things Africa related. We are a little late today, so apologies for the delay. But today is just Ask Me Anything Pan-African Perspectives live stream. If you got questions, ask away. First of all, before we get into it though, let me know if you can hear me. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me, and let me know where you guys are watching from. Can you hear me? If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up in the chat and let me know where you're watching from. We are live everywhere. We're live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok. Well, not TikTok, sorry. We're live everywhere but TikTok. But let me know where you guys are watching from so I can see where you guys are. Seba's in the house. What's up? I see Major JR. I see Skilly. I see Keith Washington. I see C. Scott Helps. I see James Pierre. A bunch of people are in the room. Somebody's name is Akron, Ohio. All right, we can hear you. Seba says watching from South Africa. You can hear me. Nice. Tino Vimba says they're watching from the UK. Can you hear me clearly? Okay, cool. So if you guys have any questions about my time in Africa, for those of you who are new, there's always new people joining. You guys aren't always aware of what I'm up to and who I am. So I'll start with an intro. My name is Joe Hatagwa. I am a Sierra Leonean American. I spent the last 10 years of my life traveling back and forth to the continent. I have bought 5 acres of land. I have bought 2 town lots where I'm building a income property. I've also inherited land and gone through some challenges with what the process looks like to inherit land. Also dealing with trying to get back land that was supposed to be left to me by my grandparents. So there's a lot that I am familiar with on the continent. I also lived on the continent for a few years. For those of you who are not aware, I lived and worked in Ghana. I was the head of advertising for Jumia Ghana for a little over a year, and I worked remotely for a US-based company in Ghana for another year and change before I moved to Sierra Leone, where I worked for myself for a little over a year. Moved back to the States in 2024, and now I am facilitating all of those things from afar. So continuing to build, continuing to invest, and just, kind of sharing my knowledge, what I experienced living on the continent. So every once in a while I do this kind of a live stream where people can ask me questions and I'm here to answer them. So people, here's a good question. Heisenberg says, are you still living in Ghana? I am not currently living in Ghana. Technically, not technically. So I live in a lot of different places, technically, right? So, home is where you rest your head, I guess, right? So, for example, I have a place to stay in Sierra Leone. I do have a couple places where I stay when I'm in Ghana. And then, of course, I do have a place here in Brooklyn, New York that I come to. Rookie Cheeto says, reparations, regardless of America, will pay. Why was it brought up in the UN, and what will be the next step? That's a good question. So the reason why it was brought up at the UN is because there are many countries, not just the United States, that are responsible for the transatlantic slave trade and continuing to perpetuate it. And so because of that, although the UK was the first to, stop the transatlantic slave trade in its form that it was in, they still were a part of it for so long. So the important thing is ensuring that they are held responsible. And of course, we want to make sure that the entire world acknowledges it, right? It's truth and reconciliation. The important part is to reconcile by also first acknowledging. You cannot solve for what is not acknowledged. So it needed to be acknowledged first. So I definitely think that was the main reason why it was brought to the United Nations. Now, did many countries, I should say, decide that they didn't even want to vote? They abstained from voting. And then those, the United States, Israel, and Argentina are the 3 that actually said no, they do not agree. you know, that's for everyone else to decide why that is. But most of the EU actually, all of the EU decided to abstain from voting. So yeah, the next step is to push for a type of reparations. I think what's difficult there is determining the amount and to who gets paid. But the first part is done. At the very least, the countries that are supposed to pay it don't acknowledge it, so that'd be a whole nother process. But we'll see what happens. You know, across that bridge when we get there. We'll see if there's more. Siba is asking, what's your take on how Nigerians don't want to build their country and keep running to other countries and not behaving? I mean, I should have read that first in my head before I read that out loud. There's so much there that's so anecdotal and so specific to somebody's thoughts. So let's be very clear. The most upwardly mobile immigrant class around the world in high skilled work are Nigerians. So let's first just put that out there. So I want to be very clear on that because I just read that out loud and it can be clipped. So just based on what I just read, I just want to be clear on that. So that's number one. Number two, yes, anytime you have a general population that has, the potential and capacity to learn, at large scale, and you also have the challenges from within those countries financially, you do have the exporting of some bad behavior in some cases. And I think what should be attributed to Nigerians isn't, unfortunately. So, for example, when you think of Indians in the United States, right, most people think of them as engineers at many of the tech companies in the US because of many of them receive the H-1B visas. If you think about them around the continent of Africa, many times they are seen as folks who are in different type of infrastructure projects. The same thing with Chinese nationals, right? However, when it comes to people of melanated skin complexion who also operate in those same fields when they leave to go to other countries, the only thing that is discussed about them is the negative aspects of what can potentially come out of their country. So, for example, just a couple of weeks ago, there were a number of Chinese nationals arrested for 419 and scam operations in Ghana, for example. There were some in Nigeria, for example. There were Indian nationals, same thing. In fact, there are many, if you go to like YouTube and you watch many of the scams that are online, most of the scams, it's just different ways the scams are done. But if you go online and you see those like malware scams where it's like there's something wrong with your computer, you click on an ad and it takes you to a website and you talk to a person and they get money out of your account. Those mostly are perpetuated out of India. And so, but we're not going to sit here and say Indians are bad or Indians are this. It is only the way we describe our fellow Africans is always the most negative aspects of what happens from their countries. And I think we need to frame things differently and think differently. Because if you just pay attention to the upward mobility, you will see that many people are in the same fields that these other two groups are in, but they are not described that way. I generally don't compare people, but I think it's important to do that because, we're talking about similar fields and fields of study and career fields, but only one way is used to describe Nigerian nationals when they're in other people's countries. So Seba says, okay, now this is definitely not a live I want to be in then if we can't have honest conversations. Listen, that's an honest conversation. That doesn't mean that there are going to be bad actors wherever people go, but you have to make sure that you frame things properly. There's a nuanced discussion. I know on the internet, people want people to be very much like one extreme or the other, and that's not what you're going to get here. This is not how I am. I've never been that way. So if that's what you want, someone to be extreme with no nuance, then this is not the right place for you. Because there is nuance, right? And there is no one extreme or the other. There is definitely things all throughout. There's different complexions of everything. So I would just like to make sure that people are aware of that. All right. Any other questions, thoughts people have? So Sherez, or is it? I think it's. Is it? Sorry, Sherzi. I think it's Sherzi. If Africans reject colonialism and praise returns like Liberia, why do we oppose? Oh boy, he's speaking on Israel and all that kind of stuff. So, and so a couple of different things here. There's a lot there that you're trying to say, and so you're saying basically, why do we oppose? I don't know if I could talk about that. So, let's just speak about what the arguments are out there in the world, right? Well, first of all, we should be focused on Africa, number one, right? Let's just focus on Africa. But if you're talking about Israel, I think some of the argument there is that some people feel like those are Europeans that colonize another area, not necessarily people from that area colonizing somewhere. So that's one piece. Now, when you're talking about the Arab slave trade in Africa, I think that is a conversation that should be had and has not been had. So yeah, I think that that is a broader conversation. We can't have that conversation here because even if you have an honest conversation about that, that's when you start to get into trouble, that particular topic. So we can't really talk about Israel and anything happening and pertaining to that. But if you want to talk, if you want to find some people who want to talk about that, you're going to have to go to other platforms where people can talk about that and not be penalized. And we can talk about that in, look, things like that, specific belief systems, and when we get into some like topics of like to that degree, that will happen when I set up the the community where it's like there's behind the paywall. Right now you can sign up just to be aware of when it actually happens. We do have the link that's in the description on YouTube right now, or anywhere actually where the description is, the link is there. So you can click on that link and sign up and we can talk through certain things, but we just can't do that here. Can't do it in a public forum, unfortunately. So the question is, Jerome is asking, is can you go to Africa and get citizenship? Africa is a large continent, 54 countries, so every country is different. Each country has citizenship programs for those who enter in the country from other places, varying degrees of difficulty, varying needs in terms of what you are required to do to get citizenship. Countries that are offering citizenship a little bit easier. There's a conversation about Benin offering citizenship, although there's some questions about exactly how and the way they do it, but they were in the process of doing it. Burkina Faso is working on an initiative where they're doing not necessarily citizenship, but they're doing permanent residency, and they're working on that. So that is something that is on the table right now, and people go through ADDI to do that. ADDI in order to do that. You could just Google ADDI, Burkina Faso citizenship. It'll bring it up. There are a couple of countries that offer citizenship by investment. Egypt offers citizenship by investment. Sao Tome and Principe offer citizenship by investment, and Sierra Leone offers citizenship by investment, all at various pricings, but they are expensive. The citizenship by investment are at least, I think, like $80,000 plus. Sierra Leone's $140,000 or $100,000. Citizenship by investment in particular. That's just buying citizenship. Sao Tome and Principe has a program as well, and Egypt has a program as well. But those are the three countries that offer citizenship by investment in Africa. Then there are other pathways to citizenship. So you have the right to abode in Ghana, and different forms of citizenship. About 150 people got citizenship in February of this year in Ghana. Diasporans just got it. There was some criteria required to do so. You had to have 2 years residency. You had to show strong ties to Ghana, and you had to have a criminal background check done. So that was offered, and people did get it. 150 people got it. So we have information on that too. So just sign up for the link in the description, and we'll send some info to you. There's a specific link for Ghana though, so if people want information specifically for Ghana, I can pull up the link here and share that in the comments. Let's see. Aruka says, peace and love, beautiful people. Wow, so grateful I caught the live. Thanks for all you do, brother. I appreciate it. I would like to relocate to Kenya this year. New York tips. Oh, any tips would be great. I travel with a service dog as well. You should reach out to Kia Wakesho Simmons, who has Traverse Culture. She is the perfect person to talk to about citizenship and visiting Kenya, citizenship in Kenya, relocating to Kenya. That is the whole thing she does, and medical tourism. And so let me see if I can find you guys a link so that you can click on it if anybody's interested in Kenya in particular. I wasn't prepared for this, so let me see if I could find I'll find that link and I'll share it with you guys. Affiliate links, because I do have an affiliate link. So go through my link so that we can track. Let's see here. Traverse travel. Okay, here we go. So those who are interested in Kenya, I just dropped a link in the comments. Copy and paste that. It's taking a while to go through. Some of them are going through, some of them are not, but you can check that out. All right, let's see. Jada saying we need a community farm project. I thought you were working on that. What happened? The community farm project was not necessarily my idea. I was saying that I may help people get land. But I don't know if you remember me saying I do not want to be responsible for collecting money from everybody and doing that. That needs to be someone else. So I was saying that if there's someone who's willing to do that work, to collect the money, I can help, at least in Sierra Leone, I can help buy land and make land available to people. But I am not necessarily the facilitator of land purchases as the main facilitator of that, because there's just too many points of failure as of right now. There are other collectives I'm looking into and I'm planning to share, but I was never fully, well, I never publicly said it. Jada, maybe you and I talked about me thinking about doing something like that, but I never publicly said it because I don't want to commit to that as of right now. There are other folks working on it, and there are so many points of failure. You have no idea. It is challenging to do. So something that I've thought about, but I have not committed to publicly as of yet. You got your citizenship. Heisenberg, I got my citizenship in Sierra Leone. Yes, I'm a Ghanaian resident right now. I'm not a Ghanaian citizen as of yet. I'm still working on that. More to come on that. More Aspired Journey says, I have land in Lungay. I know you have had many challenges with your home build. Have you found a reputable builder that you would recommend? Man, when it comes to reputable builders, if you have land and you have flat land, yes. I have people that you can work with that for sure will work with you. I've also done some narrowing down of folks. I've been looking at a couple of folks. So if you want that information, sign up for a consulting call with me and we can get you that info. If you need to know where to go to sign up for a consulting call, I will put that link in the comments as well. Or you could just comment after this video is over and I could send you the link. But the link to my consultation calls, because anytime I'm giving any of my specific any of my specific people, I have a consultation call that you have to do to get my specifics. So let's see, I have this right here where I share this information. Okay, here we go. So I'm gonna put that in the comments below. You can click on that. It should be available across all platforms. Some are gonna work, some are not. Okay. So Aruka said they had heard of Kia Simmons. Cool. She's doing her thing. She's recognized by all levels of people in the country there. So definitely reach out to her. Go through that link. Okay, you have an agricultural background. Okay, that's something that could be talked about. Okay, so if your land is flat, I have someone you can talk to. I have a couple people. I have a couple of recommendations. And I'm working on some systems for how to vet them, but I have some very basic ways that you can vet them. So set up a consultation call with me, and I can walk you through it. I have some ideas, and I do have at least 3 different people that I can recommend. One of which is founded by an American. The other 2 are founded by Sierra Leoneans, but so far the conversations have gone well. I can't really vouch for them building on my land because my previous contractor, as you guys know, went through some challenges with that. So that's a conversation that's coming in some videos. The videos will be coming out soon. I would like to not only move to Africa, but stay for good. Can you give some tips on what business I can get into? The first tip I would say for self-made 1876 is go to more than one country, and as you travel around the continent, find what works for you, where you like staying, and do research on the ground when you're there. Speak to specifically what your skill set is. Generally, and I'll say this just because this is a general statement and I don't know you personally, generally, the best business to start is a business you've already done somewhere else, but now you understand the new market that you're in, and you understand that there is a need for that service. Some people get into brand new businesses that they've never done before, but generally there's an inherent knowledge around that particular type of business to help in that process. There are a number of different businesses that you can start, though. There are cooling businesses for people who have fruit. There are phone charging stations. There are water dispenser machines, right? There are all kinds of different businesses that people can start. I mean, the list is endless. I think it's just a matter of understanding the total addressable market, who your target market is going to be, how do you get in front of that audience, and can you scale that to make it make sense so that you can cover your cost? And do you have all of what you need in terms of the upfront costs that are going to be required to get stuff going? One of the things that I think people do not take into consideration is that almost in every country, there are more operating costs for a business in Africa than you can find in the West. So almost every country on the continent of Africa, there are more operating costs than you find somewhere else, especially in West Africa, which is a lot of what we're talking about here. Because of the electrical challenges, you need to have backup generators or solar. If you have a backup generator, then you need to have fuel. If there's a fuel crisis, then you need to have backup fuel. A lot of countries, there are challenges with water and water supply, so you need to have backup water. Those kinds of things. You need to have contingencies for staff who underperform or who quit or who steal, right? You got to have contingencies for those kinds of things. Not always do people run into the major challenges like stealing, for example, but you definitely want to have contingencies to ensure someone can't steal. And it's not every country, every industry. Really, it's a matter of who you hire and how you hire, but it's something that you got to consider many times in areas where, places are a little bit more challenging. Can you have dual citizenship in multiple African countries and still be a U.S. citizen? The answer is yes. The answer is yes. As of right now, I don't know if it's every country, but generally, the United States does not have an issue with you having more than one citizenship in different countries. Other countries do have problems with that, so you have to check those other countries that you're planning to get citizenship from. For example, if I'm not mistaken, there's a country in Asia, and I don't want to just throw out a country, so I can't remember which one it is, but they only allow citizenship from them in one other country. And so if you get citizenship with them, you cannot get a third-party citizenship, and some only allow one citizenship. But the United States, as of today, allows multiple types of citizenship. Okay, you watched Kia's interview on Web Nation Africa. I've also had her on the live stream a couple times too. Okay, sounds good. More schedule some time with me and we'll talk. That's great advice, Authentic African. Do you have capital to start a business in Africa? Do you have to have yes, absolutely. There are very few businesses on the continent you can start without capital up front, and you probably need more capital than you think to sustain that business for all the things that I mentioned earlier. Okay, you said I answered your question. Okay. Self-made said I do taxi, but I would like to get into transportation and help move goods to Africa. Yeah, I mean, do the research, right? I mean, there's a lot of research that has to be done on where you're trying to move goods from and what country you're trying to move goods to. So logistically, how would that happen? What goods? What's the market of people who want those goods and who need those goods? And what can you price it at? That's one of the other things too. I think is really important for people who are thinking about doing business on the continent. Is a lot of times I find people do business and they try to charge the same prices that you would charge here in the States, or charge more than you want to for the local market because your costs are so high. Remember that many times, if you're operating a brick and mortar or physical business on the continent of Africa, and your customers are generally the people around you in your community, you are going to have very razor thin margins. And so you have to be able to figure out how do you scale a business with very thin margins, and you can obviously still price things in a way that works for the local people and you're actually servicing that community. What many people recommend, which is one of the things I recommend, is if you're going to live on the continent, you service mainly the diaspora who are moving to the continent, to wherever you might be located. Because many times they're used to paying a little bit more for certain things. Most of the people who make the move generally have more disposable income. And you're generally offering a product or a service to them that they're used to having elsewhere and that they're willing to pay a premium for because it's unavailable to them. That is one of the main things. So like for me, right, I'm offering information services, right? So when people are interested in coming to the continent, they have different things that they want to do, whether they want to start a business, they want to buy real estate, those kinds of things. I offer information, and I also offer connections to people. So that's my business model, right? That's how I do things. I'm operating in that way. One of the things that I will say to you all, and I think this is something you should really think about, and this is for free. I'll give this for free. When it comes to the gold rush of 1849, and in that time frame, more than 60% of the revenue was generated from people who were not digging for gold. So more money was generated from people who weren't digging from gold or for gold than people who were digging for gold. The people who made the money during the gold rush were the people who offered products and services to people who were digging for gold, right? So for example, I always give this example. Some of you might be new to this. Sorry for those of you who've heard this already, but Levi Strauss, the jean company, were offering overalls to people who were going and doing the gold digging and sifting. Wells Fargo became a bank during that time, and they were holding and housing money for people during that time. So you have to think about, when everybody's trying to do one thing, can you offer services to those people? Offer services to people who are planning to move. That is what I'm doing. I'm offering information as a service to people who are planning to move, or product, I guess I should say. Any other questions? Let me see if there's anything on Instagram. Let me see. On IG. Sure says, where did you say you can you could pay to discuss that? Can't find a link in your profile. So as of right now, I do not have that set up. I do have a link though that you can go to just here. No, that's not it. So to just be alerted when I do launch that program. So I haven't launched the program as of yet, but I am planning to launch it soon. And when I do, you guys will be the first to know. All right. So any other questions? Okay, here we go. Hello, do you have an email? I want to send my story to share. I don't see an email in your profile or IG profile. Yes, you can send an email to contact@authenticafrican.com. The email is contact@authenticafrican.com. African.com. Let me see if I spelled it right. Contact at Authentic African. AuthenticAfrican.com. I think that's it, right? I hope I didn't just misspell it. Yep. I did misspell it. Sorry. Oh man. It's been a long day. And I couldn't see. It's very tiny. Contact at AuthenticAfrican.com. Contact at AuthenticAfrican.com. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Disregard the previous comment where I spelled it incorrectly. Email has been shared. All right. Any other questions, comments? So for Scher's question, you want to go to the link in my description, but I didn't put that link. And I do need to change and update the link in the Instagram. You're right. It's been a while. So let me just give you guys this link right here. Insights, Blood Authentic African with some others. So that's the link right there for my insights. And then eventually you'll get an update on when that behind the paywall conversation can start happening. So Jade is asking, do I have a contact for land? I do have contacts for land. Depends on where you want to buy and what you want to buy. But I do have, I had a cousin actually that was selling land for a little while. And I was thinking about buying more land than I had already had because I have the 5 acres and I was thinking about adding more. I do have a contact. Jada, just reach out to me. I can talk to you about what that looks like. There's a couple people for sure. And then I can also send you a site too. All right. Aruka says, really appreciate you taking the time to answer our questions. I've been following you for about 2 years. Wow. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. We've been here for 5 now. So anyone who's been here for 2 is almost half the time. Thank you for all you shared. No problem. Thank you for following. It has been a journey for sure. All right, guys. I do have to go soon. Okay, there's a question. There's some more questions. The question is this gentleman is asking is where are you from? My family is from Sierra Leone. I was born and raised in the United States. I am a dual citizen. Aruka says, do you only deal in West Africa mainly? It depends on the topic, but many times I share people who live in other places. So like, for example, people who want to invest in Tanzania, I have some people there that I can put you in touch with. If you want to go to Kenya, deal with Kenya, I have some people that I can put you in touch with. Working on building a relationship in South Africa right now. So there's someone there too. But in terms of what knowledge I have specifically, I have lots of contacts in Ghana and lots of contacts in Sierra Leone for a multitude of different things that you want to do, just because I've lived in both places and I happen to be of Sierra Leonean descent. So I spent a significant amount of time building those relationships. Couché, brother. Okay. Self-Made says, I have friends with criminal records that want to move. What criminal record would most likely be used to hold someone back from moving to Africa? It's not really to move. That's not going to be an issue because as long as you can get a passport, you can go anywhere. Now, a lot of times when it comes to getting residency, a lot of times they ask you for a criminal record. It's a good question on what the issues are. I mean, that's a tough one because I've only seen that they ask you for your criminal record. I haven't seen what they deny or what they accept. And because I have no criminal record, I've never actually run into that challenge. Generally, lower level crimes tend to be okay. I think and it depends on the time frame. But just think about when it comes to residency and citizenship, those are the challenges, right? It's always challenging if there's anything that in someone's past that especially if if it hasn't been 20 years, you know those things will hold someone back. And then it depends on what it is, and depending on the country, right? So if it's like narcotic sales and things like that, certain countries take issue with that, especially where they have strictly prohibited narcotic sales and use. So it really is going to be challenging depending on what it is. But I think you're going to need you would have to be specific, and you'd have to be specific to a country and specific to their crimes, which we don't need to put out here. But if you want to set up a separate time, we can definitely talk through that. Jada says, we definitely need to talk, Joe, because I want to be like your friend and just show up on the house I built. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just show up at the house I built too sometimes. Yeah, let's definitely talk. You got my contact. Let's talk. African, why the obsession here in America, and which origins homeland is not here? Okay, that's a strange question. I don't really understand it. So Penelope said they want to tell me their story too. You don't see the okay. Did I not send my email earlier? contact@authenticafrican.com is the email. I think Penelope is a different person from the last person who said they wanted me to share my email. Let me see. Yeah, you just want to go to contact@authenticafrican.com and we will answer. We'll talk. Oh, so yes, sorry, got it. Okay, you did get it. Okay. All right, Elevate says, so glad to catch the live. I'm glad you caught the live too. Shout out to you. Penelope is saying we'll share the story on the email. Sounds good. Happy to share different people's stories depending on what they are and what they're about. Posting it, I think, so generally what I do, because posting a story is tough because like what medium can you post it? So generally what I like to do is bring people on to talk about the story, but it depends on the story. But when you send it to me, let me take a look at it and then we'll see what makes the most sense for how to post it. Maybe it goes in the newsletter, or maybe you come on a live stream and you tell your story. Depends. But shoot it over and we'll take a look. It's very important to get others abroad to the continent of Africa. 100%. Rising tide lifts all boats. We need to work together. A statement here was said. You said that. That's something that you said for sure. I'll leave it at that. I'm learning what to say, what's not to say. Okay. Elevate with Masuraya. Okay. Says, what are your thoughts on relocating to East Africa? It depends on which country and depends on what you're looking for. I mean, right now, Kenya is top 2 in terms of medical tourism and medical health and healthcare system on the continent of Africa. It's number 2, as a matter of fact. People talk very highly about their school system and just the way of living in country. So yeah, I mean, it may make sense. It's probably a softer landing on the continent because it'll probably remind you of what it was like to live in major cities in the States, especially if you move to like Nairobi. The thing is, you just got to be prepared for the cost of living because I think a lot of people think they're moving to the continent and it's not going to be expensive. And it generally is. The cost of living is generally lower than many cities in the United States, but it's definitely more than what most people think it's going to be. But overall, I mean, it depends on who you are, depends on what you do, depends on what you plan to do. But yeah, I mean, I have nothing but good things to say about specifically Kenya generally. I mean, obviously, there are people who have disputes about certain aspects of Kenya, in terms of government, etc. Same thing with Uganda. I've a couple of friends from Uganda who love it there. I mean, obviously, it's their homeland, so of course they love their country, but they tend to be pretty developed. You specifically Kenya, you have Uber, you have many different apps that you're used to using to kind of make your life more efficient in the West, similar story there. Penelope says, work together, separate from religion and tribalism and fake made-up borders. Yes, we should. Penelope also says, Kenya is pricey, but Tanzania, Ethiopia, Eritrea are more affordable. Fair. All right, guys. So we are at time. I think we're going to have to bring this to a close. Elevate says, thank you. You're welcome. I want to thank you guys all for joining. I know this was kind of an impromptu, last minute, ask me anything. Jada has booked some time. All right, Jada. So we'll be talking. But yeah, so if you guys are all interested in talking to me directly, you can book some consultation time. I can speak to your specific needs, what you need, what you want, where you want to go, who I can put you in touch with in those specific areas. I obviously don't have people in every single country, but there are certain countries where I know people who are doing certain things. So that's one. Two, if you want to figure out how to be a part of the potential folks that get access to the insights that I don't say publicly, that is also going to be something that I am going to be sharing, but just fill out the form. So this is the consultation link. I've sent that again for Calendly, the one-on-one consultation call. So people can book there. Now, if you guys want to get the insights, I sent the insights.authenticafricans/landing page, blah, 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 blah. That page, I sent that already in the chat. I can add it to the description for when you guys come back after the live stream is over. All right. With that being said, I think we are all set. Let me see if there's any last minute questions. Let me just drink some water first. Let's see. I think that's it, guys. So with that, thanks for watching. See you guys all in the next video. Bye, guys.